Vikings is a way of life. It's not actually a group, a club, or a fraternity, but a way of life. We are adventurers as humans. Most Norse are indeed humanitarians. The real Vikings' orientation is not to oppress anyone, but some have a different perspective of Vikings' confraternity. History still speaks till date, as the life and bloody actions of the founding fathers of Vikings are being inherited by the modern-day Norse world, just as a parable siasi, like father, like son, and like mother, like daughter. Imagine the roar of Viking longships crashing onto lands, warriors storming villages, and chaos erupting. But amidst the bloodshed and plunder, a darker fate awaited the captured women. They were not just spoils of war, they were currency, power, and symbols of status. Behind the legendary sagas and heroic conquests lies a brutal reality often ignored. What truly became of these women? Their untold stories reveal the haunting price of Viking dominance and the hidden shadows beneath their legendary glory. Enslavement and forced labor. Women captured by Viking raiders were frequently reduced to the lowest social class in Norse society, thralls or slaves. These women were taken from lands such as Ireland, England, and the Slavic regions, enduring a brutal transition from freedom to servitude. As thralls, they performed grueling domestic tasks, including cooking, cleaning, and caring for children, while also toiling in agriculture and textile production. The Landnámabók, an ancient Icelandic text documenting the settlement of Iceland, mentions the presence of these enslaved women, highlighting their integral yet tragic role in Viking households. Some were even given as gifts or traded as commodities, emphasizing their lack of autonomy and the harsh reality of their existence. The life of a thrall was marked by hard labor, social stigma, and a lack of personal freedom. They could be killed or punished at their master's discretion, a harsh reality noted in the law, which permitted owners to treat thralls as property. This status was passed down to their children, ensuring a cycle of enslavement. Yet, in rare cases, a thrall could be granted freedom, becoming a freedman or freedwoman, though they remained in a subordinate social position. This harsh aspect of Viking society, often overshadowed by tales of exploration and conquest, reveals the brutal reality faced by countless women captured during raids. In Viking society, captured women were sometimes taken as concubines by powerful chieftains and wealthy men. These women, often seized during raids in lands like Ireland and Scotland, became secondary partners who provided heirs without the formal status of a wife. Sagas such as Egil's Saga and Laxdæla Saga depict this practice, revealing how concubines could influence the household's dynamics by bearing children. Yet they remained subordinate to the legitimate wife, reflecting the patriarchal structure of Norse society. Unlike enslaved women, concubines had a slightly higher social standing, but were still considered property, lacking personal freedom and legal rights. Intermarriage was another strategic choice, especially for Norse settlers in regions like the British Isles. Marrying local women was a way to establish political alliances, secure land rights, and integrate into new communities. This pragmatic approach not only solidified Viking influence, but also facilitated cultural assimilation. Genetic studies provide compelling evidence for this practice. DNA research from Iceland reveals that a significant portion of its early female population was of Celtic origin. This supports historical accounts of Norse raids and the integration of captured women into society. Captured women were not only enslaved or taken as concubines, they were also seen as valuable commodities for ransom and trade. During Viking raids, particularly in England and Francia, noble women were often held captive to extract wealth from their families. This practice is vividly documented in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which recounts instances where captured noble women were returned in exchange for silver, gold, or other precious goods. These ransoms served as a significant source of wealth for Viking chieftains and contributed to their growing influence. Unlike common captives, these women were not integrated into Norse society, but were used as strategic assets to negotiate power and wealth. However, not all women were fortunate enough to be ransomed. Many were sold in bustling slave markets across Europe and the Middle East. Historical records, such as the Rus Primary Chronicle, describe how Vikings, known as the Rus, transported captives along river routes to trade in eastern markets, including Constantinople and the Abbasid Caliphate. Ahmad ibn Fadlan's writings describe the slave markets along the Volga River, where Scandinavian traders exchanged women for silver, silks, and spices. This network of commerce connected Viking territories to vast international trade routes, highlighting the economic importance of female captives. This commodification of women reflects the harsh realities of the era, where social hierarchies were reinforced through control over human lives. In Viking society, religious rituals were deeply intertwined with warfare and conquest, and some captured women faced horrifying fates as human sacrifices. The most detailed account of this practice comes from the Arab traveler Ahmad ibn Fadlan, who witnessed a Viking funeral along the Volga River in 922. In his writings, he described how a female slave was chosen to accompany her master in death, believed to serve him in the afterlife. The ritual was elaborate and brutal. After days of preparation, the chosen woman was given intoxicating drinks, presumably to dull her senses. She was then ritually assaulted by several men as part of the ceremony. Finally, she was strangled and stabbed by an elder woman known as the Angel of Death, a priestess who conducted the sacrifice. Ibn Fadlan's meticulous observations provide a rare glimpse into the brutal yet spiritually significant customs of the Norse, emphasizing the belief in an afterlife where servants continued their roles. While Ibn Fadlan's testimony is the most vivid, other historical sources also hint at similar practices. Rimbert's Vita Ansgari mentions human sacrifices during religious festivals, particularly for high-ranking leaders. Yet not all accounts are equally detailed, leading to debates among historians about the frequency and scale of these sacrifices. Archaeological evidence further fuels these discussions. The Arseberg ship burial in Norway contained the remains of two women, one of whom showed signs of a violent death. Scholars debate whether she was a high-status attendant or a sacrificial victim. Similar findings at Trelleborg in Denmark suggest ritualistic killings, but interpretations remain controversial due to the lack of definitive proof. These discoveries highlight the complex and often brutal aspects of Viking spiritual practices, where human life was sometimes seen as the ultimate offering to the gods. The fate of women captured by Vikings reveals a chilling chapter in history, one marked by enslavement, exploitation, and ruthless commodification. Friends, whether forced into labor, taken as concubines, traded for wealth, or even sacrificed, their stories expose the harsh realities behind Viking expansion. These women were more than mere victims, they were pivotal to the social, economic, and political dynamics of Norse society. By understanding their experiences, we uncover the true cost of conquest and the human impact often lost in the echoes of heroic sagas.